But she's getting my
Oh, yeah.
final. It's 5:58. It says 6 o'clock on the big digital.
5:58.
Okay. Hold on a moment.
Commonwealth will survive.
Tom says, look. So I'm going by it. All right, let's call our Wednesday, May 18, 2022 Town Council regular meeting to order at 6 o'clock, according to the clock that I have. And please silence your cell phones. We want to give respect to everybody that speaks during the meeting, so we want to make sure there aren't any unnecessary interruptions. All right, this time we will stand for a moment of silence, followed by the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Roll call of members. All members are present. Are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, do I have an approval of the agenda as written?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Approval of consent agenda. There's more details in the packet on this. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
There's several things in here, so I definitely think we should at least discuss. Since I wasn't here for the minutes, can I abstain without having to separate that out of the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. So
We'll note for the record that Mr. Williams was not in attendance with me.
and then I think the Potomac River Festival is pretty straightforward. Applying for the Trails Grant for the Linear Park. I just wanted to state for the public that, well, I'm not necessarily opposed to applying for the grant. I'm assuming that it's pretty cheap for us to apply since we've already probably have everything all written already, since we've applied before. I just wanted to mention that I believe that the residents of the town should be surveyed and we should figure out what they want before we actually jump into the project. So I just wanted to state that for the record. I don't know if anybody else has any comments on that, but, and then I just wanted to see if anybody could give a little bit more detail on the municipal, the government applying for the Virginia Housing Capacity Grant on behalf of Colonial Beach. Is the $25,000 that's mentioned in the resolution, is that just $25,000 the town will front for the housing authority, and then we receive it back via the grant? So there's no risk to the town regarding that. And so this doesn't commit the town to anything other than allowing them to apply for the grant, so that if they decide they want to move forward with something in the future, council would be able to approve or disapprove. Correct?
What's the question?
Does this hold the town to anything other than helping them get the grant funding?
I think the town manager is gonna answer.
Okay.
I think if we would like to delve into that item, it should just be pulled from the consent agenda. So if that's an item that we want to discuss, then we should pull item D to discuss a bit later
Okay.
and amend it to be included at the bottom of the agenda.
I'm not necessarily opposed to it, I would just like some details for myself and maybe the public. But if you want to pull it, that's fine, but. I'm fine either way. I'm not necessarily gonna vote no for it. I just wanted to find
The
out.
question is, do you want to pull it out? If you want to discuss it, you want to pull it out, you should move to pull it out.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then I'll move to pull it out.
Second.
All in favor of pulling out the
What are we pulling out?
housing grant?
I just wanted more details on it. I wasn't necessarily saying it was a controversial item.
Sure, I don't think it is, and we were trying to streamline the meeting with the consent agenda, and so a lot of the details are in the staff report. And so as long as if there are questions above and beyond the staff report, then we can pull it and the staff can go into more details. But we're just trying to streamline the meeting since they were getting so long.
Are we talking about the CIP? Is that,
No,
okay.
No, the grant for the housing capacity building grant. And all I wanted to know is if this obligates the town to anything other than the grant.
If I could jump in here, the grant policies I presented last time were basically set up where if the match doesn't go above 30 grand, then the very first approval of council also serves as authorization to enter the contract when the grant comes. And there is zero match for this program. So,
All right, so no financial obligation to the town.
no, and the reason I didn't put a specific funding request in, I said the maximum funding request is 25 grand. That's because the consultant might end up only costing 18,000. So I didn't want to request 25 and we didn't need that.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
So do you want to withdraw your motion to pull it?
Sure, I'll withdraw my motion to pull it from the consent agenda.
okay.
Can I add something? Also, if it does cost 18,000, the housing authority has the money already for that, so it won't cost the town anything. The housing authorities,
Right,
Well,
it
we
won't
have
cost the town anything either way,
Mhm.
except for the fact that there may be a payment that is refunded.
right, and we're willing to pay it, the town doesn't have to find the funds to do that.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good. And you're good on the North Beach shoreline. Okay, all right. So I have a motion and a second on the table. Is there any further discussion of the consent agenda? Seeing none, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right.
Point of order, Madam Mayor.
Yeah.
In the future, if we have a question with something's on the consent agenda, should we convey it to so that it can be pulled out if necessary?
The town manager,
Okay.
or me, both.
Okay.
I felt like one of the feedbacks that I was getting from council members.
Oh, I
and the
absolutely
public
agree.
was that
Yeah.
we needed to get a little bit more efficient about these things. And so if there was a comprehensive staff report and these were already things that were identified in our strategic plan, then I was just trying to,
But if I have something I want to discuss further, I should, sooner than tonight, I should ask for it to be pulled out.
I mean, that would always be helpful. But the reality is that we would have amended the agenda at the meeting.
Okay.
All right, council member announcements. And I do appreciate everybody that, for this process getting implemented, I think it is helping. So I like to, get to the discussion parts, and spend time on those items, so. All right, council member announcements. We will go on this side.
Hi, Dr. Mitchell, I know he's back there somewhere.
Oh, there he is.
I'm in the back. At last week's school board meeting, we celebrated our Teachers of the Year. Congratulations to Mrs. Kelly Hurt, Colonial Beach Elementary School's Teacher of the Year, and Miss Jolie Pastor, Colonial Beach High School's Teacher of the Year. This award is well-deserved. I know this because Ms. Hurt and Ms. Pastor taught all three of my children. They are exceptional teachers, and I want to thank them for the care and guidance that they have given our kids at Colonial Beach all these years. Tomorrow, we have our kindergarten and 7th grade graduations, and this Saturday, the 21st, will be our high school graduation. We're so proud of our drifters. You are the future of Colonial Beach. Congratulations and well done. All right, that's it.
The Colonial Beach Community Foundation and the Colonial Beach Community Center wanted me to give a special invite to all the council members and town staff, along with the public, for their Community Center Appreciation Day. That's going to be Sunday, coming Sunday, May 22nd from 1 to 5. It's a free event with music, food, games, family activities at the Community Center, which is at 717 Marshall Avenue.
Not too much really. I know everybody already probably in the audience knows that the pier is finished, so that's a good thing. And improvements in Castlewood are still ongoing, but the fence is up. And also, I was supposed to meet with Public Works this week, but had to get canceled. And one thing I learned is new is that maybe not everybody realizes that Public Works does storm prep. So if something looks like it's coming in, they prepare for that. So looking forward to rescheduling and actually meeting with the Public Works people. But yeah, that's about all I have. I don't know if Chris, you have anything major that's going on with the Public Works Department right now?
Paving operations are in place right now. They'll be completed by the end of the week, Friday, probably around 5 o'clock.
Okay, thank you.
Allison?
So I only have two agenda items for Parks and Rec. They are currently having their soccer program on Town Hill. So if you have any kids that want to be involved in that, please reach out to the Parks and Rec. They're also having movies night, which is going to be June 14th. Additional details will be coming for that, but I did find out that the movie that we'll be showing is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So look forward to that.
Well, school's out now. I'm going to graduation tomorrow for my 7th grader. Then I'll be going to graduation this weekend. I'd like to thank the chamber for a wonderful dinner at the Lighthouse, and to congratulate the business of the year, which is Peddler's Market, and the business person of the year, which is Noi at Umbun. Both of those businesses, have a lot to be proud of and serve this community well as our Colonial Beach police officer that was recognized, and you'll have to help me with this name again.
Officer Lamont.
Officer Lamont. I didn't want to mispronounce it. Anyway, who had done it right along with me, and I know is serving this community greatly. And then also to the Westmoreland County Sheriff's Office, who recognized 2 of their officers. We had a meeting at Comrel, which was also at high tides, a lot of high tides last week. And that was well attended by our regional partners and stakeholders. And I want to thank the staff for preparing for that and helping with us, and also to our partners at the Naval Base. And then the last 3 days I have spent almost exhaustingly, along with several other staff members, at the Main Street Conference in Richmond, Virginia, which is now has me excited and invigorated, as if I'm not already, about downtown, small business, small scale development, and how the downtowns in small rural areas can thrive and find solutions. And it's just an amazing conference, a lot of connections. And I have to point out that while I heard about and from small downtowns across the nation, I would still rather live nowhere else but Colonial Beach, Virginia. It only further solidified how special this place is to me, and how special everybody in it is, and how we have a community of people that make this community the best place on earth, in my opinion, which is why I choose to live here. So I just am very excited about things to come with downtown Colonial Beach, and we are ready to roll, as was put in the conference about getting you excited for your downtown.
Madam Mayor?
Yeah.
As you know, I was there too. And what really invigorated me is as I sat through all of these meetings 3 days from 8:15 in the morning until 4:30 or 5:30 in the afternoon. And everything that they were saying is the way we should do it. is the way we're doing it here. I mean, it was just
Yeah.
like validation that what our planning commission has done, what the previous councils have done, what we've done getting us to this point, we're moving in the right direction and we're gonna be something special, recognized beyond our own residents as a result of this.
Well, we are special already, and I think that the things that you're gonna see develop here are gonna be not because of more people coming, but because of the people that live here now and of how much they care and we care for our community. And we just want to support them in their dreams and future that they have here. And to people in this audience and people that watch this video, because if you are coming to council meetings, you're here because you love this community. And you're the ones that are going to inspire others, and you have your own inspirational ideas, and it's just exciting to be a part of that and seeing your dreams come true. So, and that goes out to our business owners who are busy working right now and can't come to meetings, but stay involved and support us as well. So, I mean, lots of special things about Colonial Beach. They wish they could be like us. That's all I can say. I don't know. They don't know us yet, but they do. Town manager update.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd also like to echo your sentiments, both you and Dr. Self-Sullivan. One of the things that really impressed me is a number of the speakers and subject matter experts at these sessions. I went to 3 sessions, are people we've worked with directly. Dr. Acordino is a national expert, Kathy Frazier, and there were at least 1 or 2 other people that we work with directly. So knowing that we're working directly with subject matter experts that are statewide and nationally reaffirms that we are moving the right direction in terms of small scale economic development and the impact that that'll have in our town long term. So just wanted to add that. A little bit about my updates for tonight, moving to finance. As you know, we are wrapping up our FY23 budget process. Our real estate billing, bills are due, and water and sewer cutoffs, which Chris could speak to, have been underway this week. Grants, I'm gonna kick it over to JC to talk about where we are with grants.
So the 2 grants that were on the consent agenda tonight, already covered the Housing Authority a little bit, but just to let you know basically what that's about. Tier 1 grant that Virginia Housing offers for capacity building. So basically the idea is we're going to hopefully get some funding to help increase the training opportunities for the Housing Authority so that eventually in the future they could be of big help for the town when we eventually execute a housing project. So it's sort of the first step in a long process. There's a tier 2 planning grant after that, and then funding after that. And like I said, no match. Up to 25 grand. So we'll see how that goes. The other one that's on the consent agenda was the linear park. The staff recommendation was to apply for $200,000 in grant funding, which will require a $50,000 local match. And I already had applied for the Virginia Outdoors Foundation grant for $25,000 for this project. And if we get that 25 grand, that could potentially be part of our 50K match. So we could end up only spending 25K and getting 225K for the project paid out of somewhere else. So that would be a huge win for the town. And then Eleanor Park, we're moving forward through the due diligence process. We have 1 step on the agenda for tonight, so I won't touch on that right now. And then, I'm waiting to hear back on those 2 park grants. Hopefully we'll hear back in June, is what I was told. And that's for the linear park, the planning grant 25K I just described, and also the pop-up park at Azalea in Stratford. That's really all the major stuff going on with grants right now. RCDI is coming to conclusion, which is we've been working with our wonderful businesses and economic development for the community. And that's going to be 30 grand, which will go towards signage and starting our wayfinding system in the downtown. So
Just to add in that, because it reminded me, at Comrel, there came up an opportunity to apply for infrastructure funding that we, the community liaison from the naval base presented at Comrel, and he needed a shovel-ready project, and we have one, which is the replacement of the sewer, the, upgrade to the sewer system in the, central. There is interest in, trying to get that, processed. Is free up allocated dollars. So I think we're gonna bring that forward on the June work session for the same kind of thing, that's a letter of authorization to move forward for that. Because ultimately, they are funding projects in the middle. This is a prime time to try to capitalize on that. But I just wanted to, you reminded me of it when you were talking about those other grants, and this just came forward through the Comrel presentations.
Great, thank you, JC. And just to add to the last two items as it relates to the housing capacity grant and then the trails, to touch on some of the Main Street Conference and at Comrel, to get to the why. Why are we taking staff time to apply for these grants? Housing is very important as capacity. So if we look at opportunities to build sort of our tax base and reduce our tax burden, being able to partner with some of the needs and the gaps that we have in our region, being able to support the military base, which will help our local economy. In the recreational trails program, we learned in one session that the investments to parks have a tremendous return on investment to communities for their overall quality of life. So if we're able to leverage these funds and save some of our town money in return, it will help our overall local economy. Next, we are hiring. We have a couple of vacancies in our wastewater department. I'll turn it over to Chris to talk about those.
So we have a wastewater supervisor and a plant operator and one field trainee, which is to go out and work on the water and sewer system within the town.
And then finally, we have a police officer vacancy that we are currently recruiting for. Thank you, Chris. Moving on to Parks and Rec, and fortunately, Councilmember Allison, I think you stole all my thunder. Ferris Bueller's Day Off will be in our park on June 14th. We'll be showing that movie. There's also been new hand sanitizers installed at Torrey Smith, new numbering on our mini golf course, as well as a volleyball net that was placed at the end of South Beach. So if you're interested in playing beach volleyball, go ahead out to the end of South Beach and play and enjoy our new volleyball net. Cool. Next, Intergovernmental Relations and Community Affairs. We're very happy to be bringing our DMV Connect back. They were here on May 9th and they had 31 appointments. They served a number of our local residents, plus some people from probably outside of our town, but we're very excited to bring them back on June 14th. And then they will be back in July 18th and we'll be working on a date in August. We also mentioned in our consent agenda the federal project that we are working with Senator Warner's office on for congressional appropriations for our North Beach Shoreline project. And Comrel meeting was held last Thursday where we met with our Comrel participants as well. Finally, on infrastructure and public works, Chris mentioned the road paving. Our stormwater RFP closed today. We have 2 respondents, so we'll be looking to select a chosen vendor from that. And then our Dewberry Central Drainage Area project is still moving forward. The pier was completed on May 6th and opened, and then Public Works also completed Castlewood Park fencing. So we'll be moving on to the second phases of Castlewood. And that concludes my report. And if you have any questions, I'll be able to answer them at this time.
Your questions?
On the pier, and I note that on the pier that we've replaced the planks further out. The planks closer to shore have not been replaced. What, do we have any idea how long this replacement is going to serve us and how much? I guess what I'm saying, how long is this going to carry us?
Bowie, I was out there and I talked to Bowie, who was doing the work, and he said 5 to 10 years. But we know that this is not, what happened with replacing the boards is not the, the real solution to what needs to happen to the pier. I think most people in the room that have been following this issue do understand that. Certainly it looks nice and pretty, but there's a lot more to the structure that needs to be upgraded. So he said between 5 to 10 years. Does that sound consistent with Chris? No, that's not consistent?
That'll be consistent if we can allocate some funds to replace some of the pilings that are failing. There are some under subgrade pilings that are shoved that support the structure itself that need to be replaced.
We are trying to find
So
a complete rebuild.
the rebuild that he did will
Right.
last 5 to 10 years if we continue to keep money available to do upgrades or repairs before they fail again.
Okay. That makes more sense.
5 to 10 years-ish then.
Ish. The faster and sooner we can get an allocated replacement here, I mean, that's the reality, that's what's gonna have to happen. Okay. Any other questions inside?
I do have a question about the pilings, because I had mentioned that we were allocating $100,000 to the repair, and I asked if it was a Band-Aid. My question is, some of those pilings that are in really rough shape, can they be replaced with what's there already, or is it a major ordeal to pull
We'll have to set money aside to pull 2 or 3 to 4 of them a year and replace them. The idea is we would remove one and replace it and then secure the structure to the pier pilings. And that's what will extend the life of that pier to that 5 to 10 years.
Okay, thank you.
And sometimes they just pile in the next one next to it and never remove the first one.
Yes, if they can't be removed, they'll sister one either behind, in front, or next to, and then they'll resecure the structure to that, and that'll actually become your main support.
Right, that's what I've seen.
And I'll just add, we are pursuing grant opportunities for that pier replacement. The $100,000 that we allocated was because of the storm damage, and it was an emergency, so we could have the pier operational this year. The goal was never to allow anyone to believe that $100,000 was going to be the fix long-term. So we did know that it was a temporary solution so that the pier could be operational, but not necessarily a Band-Aid for forever.
Any other questions? All right, next, Jose. I saw you out there. And then I'll say a couple more.
So I started working with Jose about 10 years. Jose grow to field supervisor he has become in the last 10 years. And him and his guys get out there and they get the grass cut, and they do a very good job doing it. And it's been awesome to see how far Jose's come in such a short time.
Jose is celebrating his dedication and service to the town of Colonial Beach for 15 years. He does it with a smile on his face, always a pleasant attitude. I am always thrilled to see him on any project or anything around town. He's one of the crew members that make life possible here in Colonial Beach. You may not know or see him out about what they do on a day-to-day basis, but they make it happen. And he always has the most wonderful, positive attitude, at least to me. I don't know. I don't actually. Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard from your fellow coworkers as well, Jose. And I just want to tell you, I'm personally proud to work with you in the capacity that I do, and just thank you for your service to this town and your investment here in the community that you call home, and that how much that means to us. So thank you. Come up and get your pen and your check. Come on, dude. Come on. I need a photo too, Jose, so you better come on up. Should I pull the chair out a little bit? All right. Well, you want that, I'm sure, but here. This is nice, right? and you get all of them. So here, let's take a photo together.
One more.
Did you get it?
Okay, yep.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And keep smiling and keep everybody with such a positive attitude. It is important to the work that you all do and to the people you work with, and it means so much to the family. And also give CJ a hard time because he did not come to celebrate his 5-year anniversary with the town of Colonial Beach in service. If you don't know CJ, he's the big tall one, okay? That you see with the bright orange or neon yellow, orange. He is easy to spot, I will say, in that sense. He is a lead in a lot of ways, and I would love to be able to tell him that in person, but he's not here tonight. So I'm giving him a little bit of a hard time, and he should expect it from me. Good. Pass it on to him, though, that I missed him and that I very much appreciate him as well. 5 years. Okay, next up is our Board of Supervisor, Mr. Tribbett. And I apologize for missing the meeting while my boat was sinking.
Hello, Mayor.
I'll be there at the next one, I promise.
Sure you will.
I will.
Appreciate it. And B, that's his other half. She's been with the school system for centuries, I think, and man,
Don't call her out like that.
she's special too. She is very special. But she knows I love her. I wouldn't be up here talking about her. And I have to tell y'all, it's exciting to be up here tonight. A few weeks ago, it wasn't so exciting, but I have to thank all of you, as well as the public. I know Mr. Monicure spoke about it a little bit at the work session, but I tell you, we couldn't have done it without you. We all did it as a team. That first meeting, probably it was definitely over 200, between 200 and 240 residents that came to that. Second meeting was well over 100 to support the rescue squad. And it helped tremendously. If it had been you and I, Robin, like it was the first couple meetings, we were trying to get that squad out of Oak Grove to Colonial Beach, it never would have happened. I can assure you of that. So I'm thankful for the public. Anytime the public ever gets behind anything, we don't lose. And I just want to mention, because I've heard a lot about the squad call the Wilkersons this past weekend, and y'all probably seen it on social media. If you see those things, people ask you those questions, or they say, hey, it took 30 minutes or an hour for the squad to get there. That's not always accurate. I had to unfortunately hear from another supervisor in the 4th district, complain that people had complained to him about the time it took. So we pulled the call, and the fire department and the squad wasn't staffed, but the response unit responded, and they were there within 4 to 5 minutes, the fire department as well as the response unit. We all know when the response unit goes is Pat Fisher. So they were there, as well as the captain from Oak Grove responded, as well as the squad. The squad from Oak Grove got there in 9 minutes. So it was a very fast response, actually. And but I understand social media was saying things like it was longer than 30 minutes. And so I just want to, I'm just mentioning that for the fact that there's been some negativity about the squad, but I cannot thank Father Nick and the squad and those people that stood up for what was right. Obviously, I told you a while back that I was involved in 2 rescue squads closing down that were volunteers, and it was not a good time. But those squads were ready to go. Colonial Beach is not ready to go. And even though they struggle to get volunteers, they've just recently picked up a few more. They've committed to 85 hours a month, which they've exceeded this month already. So their goal is to continue to exceed it and do better. And like I said down there, I mean, we talked about it, and to fly somebody out is between $35,000 to $50,000, and I think one of the big contentions was that the squad gets $50,000 from the county. What's a life worth? And we all know in my view, it's worth more than that. That's one call. You got to fly somebody. They're there 24/7, even though they're not always staffed. It is volunteers, and it's getting harder and harder because of the training. But I won't dwell on that, but I'll just tell you, if you hear things or you see it on social media, we can pull those calls and tell you how long it takes to get there. Who responded, what the time period was, and it will be extended periods of time sometimes because all 4 squads on many occasions are already at the hospital. But I think we're going to see a big improvement with the squad staffing. Now it's not going to be held against them because before, when they didn't make 600 calls, it's because they weren't staffed. But the sheriff's department was directed to document that when they didn't respond. And there is no volunteer organization in this state or any other state that holds it against you when you're not staffed. When you have a staff unit, you mark on the air and you say, I'm staffed for however much amount of time it is. And all the surrounding counties do exactly the same thing. And that's when they respond. And that's when those times count for 90%. It's not when nobody's staffed. So I just want to make that clear that it was a great thing for us to go down there and do the right thing. And it made an impact, and it's going to make an impact on this town. So I won't dwell on that any longer. I will tell you, though, that we approved $1.5 million for the new football field and the track to be completed down at Montrose for the new school. The new school grand opening and convocation will be in July. And the money that came, though, it didn't come out of the county funds. It was a contingency fund from the school being built, as well as funds that the school moved around that they had already in transportation and some other areas. So we approved that, but we didn't take anything extra out of our budget for that. We did have a budget meeting. We're advertising for June the 1st for the budget to be approved. We also discussed the assessments. The taxes are, as far as property taxes, are going to be reduced from 76 cents to 62 cents, which is a big deal. And just to put that into perspective, and I looked the house up just to try to figure out what the county taxes would be. Where it's going to cost you more is if you did any kind of improvements or anything. But in last year in 2021, if a house was assessed at $343,000, at 76 cents, the tax would have been $2,607.56. This year, the same house is assessed at $432,600, which is a difference of $89,500, and the tax is $2,682.12. Lowering it to 62 cents, that's a increase of $74. So that's not too bad when that increase went up 24% and bringing it down to 62 cents. Now, I'm not talking about town, because you're the ones that are going to have to make that decision what the town's going to be as far as the tax rate. But that's for the county. So that's just a little bit of information for you to know. Also, we voted to do an enhanced benefit for the fire and EMS, because what we're seeing all around the counties is if King George raises their salary $50, they're gone. You lose employees. And so all the counties have kind of gotten together and with the neighboring jurisdictions, and they're going to try to do this incentive package to where people won't leave, that they'll stay. And it's going to cost the county this year $184,735, but it's going to be well worth it. Right now, EMS is fully staffed, but it is difficult to get anybody once you lose somebody. And as long as the next county pays a little bit more, they're going to leave because they ain't got to drive anywhere. If they're living right here, it's not very far to go. And we do have people in Westmoreland working in Northumberland. They're working in Richmond County, Essex. They're all over the place. So we're hoping that this incentive is going to keep them right here in this area, supporting us and the needs that we have. So that's really about all I have to say. I was really happy to see that the chief made both meetings as well down there at the county. He must have figured that they were going to need some backup, and we always appreciate the backup. We appreciate the backup, and so he attended those meetings as well, and I just can't say enough about that. That is it's exciting to know that the 3rd district and the 2nd district voted with me to make that first meeting happen, and even though they claimed it was illegal, it served its purpose evidently, because we had to come back into session again and withdraw that, because we don't want to do anything to cause anybody to do something illegal. But it needed to happen. And then, we were able to work that agreement out, and boy, I hope that the squad grows. But volunteers, you've heard it. You've heard it from the county level as well as from the town level. It's very difficult. So we'll see how long all of this goes on. And I hope it's for a long time, the rest of my lifetime anyway. Any questions about anything that I can answer tonight? Yes, ma'am.
You know me. Could you clarify on the tax rate for the county? The 62-cent rate is countywide, or that's the Colonial Beach rate?
And that
Because
is a
that's
great
different.
question. And I thought about that coming down here, because I think the town's is 47 cents. And I didn't ask that question. And it's interesting. I thought about that. So I wonder how that our rate. And I apologize. I didn't ask that question. And that's a great question. I don't know if the 47 cents stays the same or whether it gets increased. But I will find that out and I'll get back with you. I promise you. That's what a good politician is supposed to say, right? I don't know the answer to that question, but I'll get back with you. And I actually will get back with you as soon as I can find out an answer to that question. Anything else? Yes, sir.
When you said it was reduced, what was it reduced from 76 to?
76 cent to 62 cent. And my math is right. Is that 14 cent?
Okay. And what was the equalization rate? Do you know what that was?
No.
Like, for example, we have 71 cents would equal it to a zero tax increase. You're not sure what the county's version of that would be?
Well, I think they take 101% but when they do the reduction, but you can't go over, the state law dictates what you can, what it is. So, I'll be glad to get you an answer to that question. I've got it. I just, don't want to quote something off the top of my head, but I know how they do that and how they do that calculation. And I'll be glad to share that calculation with you so you can see how that's done. But there's a law that requires them, they can't go over a certain amount.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you all really get me tonight.
I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody
very
else? Thank you. Good seeing you.
Dr. Mitchell, I'm so excited for graduation this year.
Oh, yes. That'll be my first, so I'm excited also.
Oh, good.
Madam Mayor, Vice Mayor, and all members of the council, good evening. Just a couple of updates. I know Ms. Clement mentioned some of it, but I'll touch base real quickly in reference to some reminders. Graduation for kindergarten tomorrow is at 9 a.m. And for 7th grade, it's tomorrow at 6 p.m. Also, graduation at our high school will be on Saturday, 2 p.m. I also want to thank members of the Colonial Beach Baptist Church for really hosting, specifically Reverend Scotty Jackson, Pastor Patrick Walker, as well as the Reverend Nicholas Sabota for really hosting our high school seniors last week, Saturday. Great ceremony in terms of the baccalaureate ceremony at the church. We had several of our students attended. Great service. I wish we had more students in attendance because they really missed a great event on Saturday. Two other things. We welcome Dr. Felix Addo. Dr. Addo is a former principal of Eastern View High School in Culpeper. He joined our staff as the new executive director of accountability and operations. And so he's been here for about 2 weeks, hit the ground running and really causing a lot of havoc, which is good. We also made a decision, the school board made a decision last week, Wednesday, regarding virtual learning for the 2022/2023 school year. We will be offering virtual learning option for our high school students who need the classes that we don't offer at our school. However, for the elementary school, there will be no virtual option. Right now, that only affects only about 6 students. We have 6 kiddos who are virtual through Virtual Virginia, and they will be expected to re-enroll in CBPS next year. That's all the updates I have. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay,
All right,
thank you.
thank you.
Nobody signed up for citizen input, just the email from Terry and Gasterlin. Doug and Terry Gasterlin. They're the only ones.
Okay. You want to just go ahead and read that then?
Yep. Dear Colonial Beach Mayor, council members, town manager, town attorney, and town grant coordinator. We live next door to Eleanor Park and share a boundary line with the park on our south side. Thus, we have a strong interest in a well-crafted, appropriate declaration of open space to the VLCF for Eleanor Park.
I started it.
Oh, okay. We have read the new draft declaration, draft version 3, carefully and have new concerns due to new or modified language compared with previous draft versions that will newly allow removal of all the mature trees from the entire park and will allow excavation and grading of the entire parcel. These concerns follow. Concern 1, in clause 6, previous text that protected the mature tall trees has been deleted. This new draft declaration will allow every tree, including healthy trees in Eleanor Park, to be removed without review or approval by VLCF and without a forest management plan. The process to determine whether and how to remove a tree has been reworded in this new draft to leave it entirely to the opinion of a certified arborist hired by the town. These beautiful mature trees are an integral part of the park. The tall leafy trees provide wildlife habitat, natural beauty, and shade. We request that clause 6 be reworked to restore the previous language and to protect the health and safety of the mature trees. The full clause would then read as follows. New words and language from prior draft shown in red. Commercial cultivating, harvesting, logging, or removal of trees is prohibited, except that trees may be maintained, trimmed, or removed for the safety and health of the tree in accordance with guidance provided by a certified arborist and in accordance with a forestry management plan, the form which must be approved by the VLCF. Concern 2, clause 9 allows the town to construct unlimited and unreviewed improvements on Eleanor Park, including unnecessary restrooms. Eleanor Park is entirely in a flood zone. It is a critical flood drainage area for the local neighborhood and serves as an essential sponge to absorb stormwater, specifically 560,000 gallons of rainwater per year in a large FEMA flood zone. We note that public restrooms and substantial parking are available just 1 block away in Castlewood Park. Further, other town parks, including Robin Grove Park, have no restrooms or internal paved parking spaces. Eleanor Park is less than 2 acres in size. Placing parking spaces or restrooms with sewer drains within Eleanor Park will eliminate a large swath of the park itself, diminishing and eliminating its open space appeal. There is no need whatsoever for restrooms or parking lots within tiny, beautiful, natural Eleanor Park.
That's pretty.
And the rest will be included in the minutes.
I didn't have anybody else for citizen input. Is there anybody else? Okay. New business. I didn't miss anything yet, did I? No, new business. Okay. Public hearing. We've done the 2 other public hearings. This one had to be noticed for 30 days instead of the 2 weeks, which is why the other ones happened last meeting and then this one happened this meeting. Ordinance 725. Did I have anybody signed up for public input on that?
Yes, Eric Nelson.
Okay. I will
Excuse
open.
me, Robin.
Yeah.
We have RT Taylor here to do a short presentation before we do the public hearing on the real estate rate.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
All of RT.
Good evening. Thank you for having me back. You have hard copies in front of you. It's also up on the TV screen as well. I won't belabor each page. As always, I like to keep it conversational. To the extent you have questions, please ask them along the way, or we can just hold them till the end if you prefer it that way. But I'm good either way, whatever you'd like to do. Just starting on page 1 and sort of setting up the presentation. Big picture, we want to just highlight what the current real estate tax rate is for the town. Walk through, or at least highlight what the equalized rate would be. Talk about what some of the challenges are for the upcoming budgets or budgets in the future. And then talk about what's the potential impact of keeping the rate at the current, or up to resetting it up to the current 80-cent rate. So as previously reported or discussed on the first bullet, the county did the reassessment process, and it yielded on average roughly 12.9% growth. And again, that's an average figure. It's not going to impact every property the same, but on average, that's roughly the growth. The town's current real property rate is 80 cents. As discussed previously, the equalized rate would be 71 cents. We do know from call it a budget challenge, that we have the Virginia Department of Education has preliminary reported, as the school superintendent mentioned a meeting or two ago, roughly a $500,000 increase to the town's local required contribution to the schools. Okay, so we'll get into how the numbers, what kind of impact that is, but roughly, if you're looking at a new value of your penny, each penny on the real estate tax rate, $500,000 would be roughly 8 pennies. Okay, so if we were to look at our current budget and it's at 80 cents and equalize, that produces no additional incremental revenues, right? And you're already looking at a $500,000 increase to your budget or the school, which you have to contribute to the schools. So that's 8 pennies right there. Okay. Additionally, as we've shown in our previous reports and analyses, walking through and talking through the CIP process, we did some preliminary affordability analyses on the $4.5 to $7 million that have been identified that potentially need to be cash or debt funded. Some balance thereof could range between 3 pennies and 5 pennies. Okay, so if you take your equalized rate of 71 pennies and add the 8 for the school, the required local school contribution as calculated by the state, that will put you up to 79, and then anything over and above that for capital projects. Would like to point out, obviously, the CIP is an annual process. We could get more grants. We could get some grants that, or not get some grants that we had planned on getting, depending on how things qualify for grants. So that those kinds of things are still evolving. So I think the upshot that we've all discussed is for the 23 budget with the current environment globally, not just locally, but globally. This is a year sort of to think about maybe being conservative and seeing how things evolve over the next 12 months or so. So we're not in a call it a reaction type of situation where we've got to fix over and above what we should have done this year in next year's budget, right? So moving on, if we look at the next page, this is really the math behind the equalization calculation. I think big picture, if you look on the dark green line in the middle of the page or middle bottom of the page, that's the 71 cents if things were to equalize. Again, your current rate is 80 cents and produces, let me turn back to my page real quickly. Bear with me 1 second. So at the current 80 cents, your annual tax revenues generated on the town's real estate assessed values is $4,311,000. Okay, so that's what you're currently getting at the top of the page right there under 80 cents, 4.3 million. And if you track down to where the dark green line is for 71 cents at the new assessed values, it would produce that same $4.3 million in annual revenues. And again, we're talking about annual revenues versus annual operations. We're not talking about your one-time monies or your reserves over here in fund balance. We've sort of documented that and memorialized those one-time monies and our policies related to keeping that so we're credit worthy if we ever need to go to the banks or whomever to get money, right? So you don't want to necessarily start pulling the reserves down, which are one-time monies, to plug ongoing, because eventually that cookie jar is going to run dry, right? If we turn the page to page 3, this matrix here is set up to show, number one, what your current 80 cents produces on your real estate taxes. Then how it equalizes at the 71%, sort of in the middle of the page. And then at the very bottom, starting on line 11, after, let's say you have $100,000 house, okay? After the 12.9, 13% reassessment, it would be 112,920. That's on line 12. At 80 cents, again, if you equalize the 71 and then reset it back at the current rate of 80, that would produce roughly $903 going forward each year on that 100,000. But up above, remember, we're at 800. So that's a differential. It would bring back to the budget or incremental dollars in next year's budget of $103 per 100,000. So what does that mean on a potential resident? That's $103 per year extra that they would put out on $100,000, okay, of value, which is roughly $9 a month, okay? And we've shown additional columns here because somebody for optics might want to see what a $200,000 house would produce, and that's roughly in the highlight yellow there at the bottom, $17 a month. And then at a $300,000 value, roughly $26 a month. Does that make sense? Does that matrix make sense to everybody? Or do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to clarify, so I don't know if the audience knows or not, but basically the average house in Colonial Beach, from the little bit of research I've done, has gone up anywhere from 50 to 80,000, some probably even up to 100,000 in value. So the 70, if we pass something that's 78 cents, it's 78 cents on 100 for that 50, 60, 70, $80,000 increase, correct?
I think can you restate that? Because I think you're tracking, but I want to make sure I'm not.
If a house went up by $50,000, it's not the 7 or 8 cents difference. It's that 78 cents for every $100 of increase in value, correct?
I'm not tracking with the question. I apologize.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I can state any differently. My house went up, say my house went up $60,000.
Okay.
My increase, to calculate my increase, I have to take the 78 cents after I divide it by the $100
Yes.
per, so, because it's $100
Right.
that they divide.
I'm with you now.
So you divide it by 100 and then you multiply it by 78 cents. So I just wanted to clarify for the audience that it's an increase on the additional increase of your property, not just the 9 cent difference, because we're talking about 71 to 78 cents. So I just wanted to clarify that. That's all.
Right. And I know we've sort of set it up here to be sort of round numbers for optics, but that's what those lines 15 and 16 are showing, because I'll tell you what, let's turn the page, because that way we can see 80 cents, 79 cents, 78 cents at the bottom of this page. So in your analogy, again, starting at the baseline in column B, at our current rate, at our current values before the reval, at $100,000, 80 cents per 100 of value gives you roughly $800 a year from that baseline. With reval at the full 80, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's a good point. So if your house went up 100,000, it's an extra $800.
You got it. Yes, sir.
Correct. Okay.
That's right. So if you look at column C, that again would tie to the previous page. So with the 13% increase, your value goes from 100,000 to 113. If you kept it, your current rate, instead of equalizing to 71, if you bumped it back all the way up to 80, that would be an extra $103 that they're paying per year. Okay, and then, that's okay.
Get it
You're
to
fine.
Zoom and it went to the next
You're fine.
page.
So again, if you go over one more column, because I know y'all are thinking through a couple different levels of tax, setting the tax rate, instead of $903, if you go to 79. So that differential is, you know, we're showing round numbers here, but you go, instead of being $9 a month, it's $8 a month. And then at 78 cents, it's $7 a month. But I think the key point to this evening and for the upcoming, the 2023 budget is, with things still in flux, with values, with the global economy, et cetera, there's just a lot of uncertainty. We don't know, even like, for example, sales tax, right? We don't know if the current trends are going to continue. So we don't want to count on dollars, recurring dollars going forward in future budgets that we'll have to recapture some other way in a future budget. So I think just a prudent approach would be to be conservative in the 23 budget, let things evolve, and then determine in future budgets if there's an adjustment that should be made. And then the other thing, obviously, is covering your ongoing increase from the Department of Education's required local match or contributions that they've calculated for the town to provide to the schools on an ongoing basis of $500,000. As well as some of the projects that you all have spoke about over the past several months. Some of those could be covered by one-time reserve monies. Others go toward cover, might be debt funded and may need to cover the debt service. So, and that goes back to that affordability analysis that we've discussed previously, ranging between 3 and 5 pennies. Yes, ma'am.
By being conservative in this budget, are you presenting that at 78 cents or at 80 or at what?
That's not my call. We're
Okay.
presenting what the incremental impact could be. I think y'all advertise.
But you meant
up
be like sure of revenue in order to make sure that we are not committed to things we can't pay for.
Correct.
Okay.
It would, said another way, for example, if you were to equalize and stay at 71, where is the money going to come from on an ongoing basis to cover simply the operational uptick for the schools that the state's calculating for you to meet, right? Where would those funds come from?
Were there other questions? Stay close because we'll do the public hearing
I'm
portion.
not going around
and
here for
then
y'all.
Before we, okay,
Yes, ma'am.
all right. And I still, did you hand off the public hearing paper? No.
No, it's just
Okay.
Eric Nelson.
All right, I will just open the public hearing at 7:04 and call Mr. Nelson.
Madam Mayor, Council, thank you for letting me speak tonight. I live at 1321 Lossing Avenue, and I spoke on this subject the last meeting, and I don't know if I should have held my comments until this meeting. I didn't really understand what you're saying about why there was 2 public hearings, but you guys have gotten accustomed to the fact that I speak at these meetings when I feel strongly about something, and I do feel strongly about this. So I thought I would just take the opportunity to speak again. I support the staff's efforts to try to come up with a budget that accommodates the bare minimum of the needs of the town. I think the town should be, and I know you are looking for alternative diversified income streams, and that's the right approach in the long term. But in the short term, you have a budget situation you have to deal with. And as they say, there's no such thing as a free lunch. You can't have services without finding the money to pay for them. So I support the budget as it's been proposed with the 78 cents tax rate, or I would even support a higher one if that's what you council decide you want to do. Thank you.
I didn't have anybody else sign up. Would anybody else like to speak? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at 7:06 p.m. And now we can open it up for a motion, second, and then discussion, if you like. You want to do a motion? Anybody? Nobody wants to touch this one with a 10-foot pole.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
I move that we approve ordinance number 725 as presented.
Okay, is there a second?
A second.
Okay. All right, open for discussion.
May I?
Sure.
And I'm pointing out the obvious, but as town residents, we have a whole lot of things that are very important to us. We have our own school system. We have public works right here. We have a police department. We have our own utilities. We have our own town government that keeps everything moving the way we want this little town to. So keep that in mind.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Allison.
So I'd just like to thank the town staff for the work that they do trying to figure out this budget. We've sat down with a lot of meetings with them, trying to understand where the cuts have to come from, where we need to implement our funds. Personally would not want to have to go through all that, but I appreciate them reaching out and, trying to make sure that we understand the impacts of not only the school and other budget items and why we got to a 78 cents. They've cut a lot, and I think I commend them for no. That's all.
Mr. Williams?
I just want to say that I've already stated my reasons publicly a number of times of why I'm not in favor of raising this. I agree that it's not an easy decision to make. I just think we need to be more fiscally responsible. I know we've been told a number of we're cutting and doing the best we can, but I just want to urge future councils to please take the fact that tax increase here is a direct impact for a lot of struggling families in Colonial Beach right now. So I'm just really concerned, of the impact on them. And so I just wanted to state that publicly. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I would say, I would like to, again, what Kenny said, I agree with 100%. I think we are being fiscally responsible by adopting a budget that will provide the services that this town needs. I also, the cost of everything has gone up. It's gone up drastically. And getting a minimal cost of living, what they should be getting instead of, 2% that they're getting? They should be getting 6 or 7%. But the staff have presented us a budget where they're only getting 2%. And that's just the tip of the iceberg and the things that they have cut or eliminated. So lowest impact on the citizens. I don't want my taxes to go up, but I don't want to lose all of my public works employees. I don't want to lose all of my town staff by not being able to pay them. So I think that this budget is as responsible a one as staff could put together.
Anything else? Yes. Tom? No? Ms. Clement?
As a resident, I know it's a burden. It's a burden on me. It's a burden on all of my friends and my fellow neighbors to pay the increased taxes. But we want our town to run smoothly. And, in your own household, if you can't pay your bills, things won't run smoothly. So the income has to come from somewhere, and we have to be willing to tighten our belts and work a little harder to pay our bills. So that's how I feel.
Any other discussion? I was going to say that one of the things that makes this town so extremely special is the services that you get by living in a densely populated community. You get a neighbor looking out for you, but you also get your trash picked up. You get your family maybe close by, and a volunteer rescue squad that shows up in a response vehicle in 2 seconds. But you also get the beach manicured, and you get community events and fun things to go to. But you also get a school system in which your child attends at a classroom that is under 40 kids. You get a response by our police department where the sheriff's office is not coming from Stratford Harbor. And the reality is that to pay for those things, this is the minimum tax rate that could possibly be presented. In fact, it's, as Dr. Self-Sullivan pointed out, the cost of living is really not appropriate with the reality of the raise of cost of living that we are experiencing right now. And I'm concerned about that because I love our staff, and our staff has done an amazing job, and they work tirelessly and effortlessly and put a lot more into it than their hours are calculated on paper. We live in one of the best places in the state of Virginia, the Commonwealth, Mr. Moncure of Virginia, in the Commonwealth. But part of that is because we have added services that if you were to live in the county, you would not have. And if you don't care about those services, then you may choose to live in a county in a place that doesn't provide those. I think part of what makes Colonial Beach is all of the dense population needs that we then also have to accommodate. And I don't know that there's a service that the municipality provides today that anybody would be willing to cut. I'm not sure that for a family with kids, that a service that we provide is in my best interest, including things like the police department or the school system. I think that a tax rate that provides those services to me and my family is extremely valuable. And I appreciate that. And I appreciate all of the people that go into providing those services for all of us. People like Jose that we just commended for 15 years of service, who live in town and work for the town and commit their life to town. I mean, everybody sitting up here as well. So I know you guys work really hard and you deserve to be appreciated. And it's a balance for all those things. And I'm proud that the tax dollars that I spend go to support that. So thank you. All right. Is there any other discussion? All right, Dr. Sullivan.
Aye.
Mr. Williams.
Nay.
Mr. Allison.
Aye.
Ms. Clement.
Aye.
Mr. Moncure.
Nay.
Ms. Robertson.
Aye.
It's easy to vote nay when you're going to have the ayes to pay for the services that we offer.
Yep.
Mayor votes aye. All right, resolution 1922, adoption appropriation of the fiscal year 2023 budget and adoption appropriation of fiscal year 2023 for the Colonial Beach School Board. Ms. Adams Jacobs?
Thank you, Mayor. In your packet, you have the resolution before you, which includes the FY '23 budget that we have presented, as well as our appropriation for the school board.
All right, do I have a motion? Sorry, I had turned my mic off. We're gonna do a motion second and discussion. So moved by Mr. Moncur. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on this point? On the appropriation and adoption of the budget? Correct, the budget. Yes. You want to start us off, Mr. Moncur?
I'd be delighted to. The proposed budget demonstrates that. As a small town, we are attempting much. And I'm about ready to echo both Robin and Vicky in this, and don't mind doing so, because I think it's worthwhile. We have a water and sewer treatment plant, a police department, roads, parks, a public pier, really nice beaches, and our own school system. All of this while also being taxed by Westmoreland County, Virginia, to have an independent school system. I'm sure most of you are familiar with the other, West Point, but if you're not, it has a big paper plant right in the middle of town and generates an awful lot of revenue. During the next several years, we should explore if we want to remain a town or seek city. The choice merits serious thought and discussion. We are currently short of the population needed to convert, though I'd make an argument that our summer population exceeds the 5,000 figure. If we pursue city status, already having our own school system puts us about 2/3 of the way there and makes conversion almost irrefutable. If, however, we determine that city status is not feasible or desirable, system makes no system, and we should seek consolidation with Westmoreland County. The budget reflects the fact that we have undertaken broad and unique things, the school being primary among them, and that we are essentially, the way we're spending, more analogous to a small city than a small town. Absent some dramatic development, maybe a paper plant without the odor, the cost of this government will continue to be on the backs of homeowners. We need to recognize that not everybody is old and comfortably retired, and that our tax policies impact individuals, and I would suggest any change in status is several years in the future, but let's keep our minds and options open. Thank you.
Any other discussion on this? Oh, ready for a vote? Okay. Tom, you want to start us out with a vote then? Mr. Moncur? How do you vote? Aye. Ms. Clement?
Aye.
Ms. Roberts?
Aye.
Dr. Sullivan?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Nay.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
And I vote aye. All right, approval, resolution 20-22, approval of the FY 2022-2027 capital improvement. Jacobs, our manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In your packet, you have the CIP, which has been presented to the Planning Commission and adopted by the Planning Commission as well as the Town Council, with some of the highlights included from our strategic plan as well as our comp plan. So that is before you this afternoon for adoption and approval.
Okay. We want to have a motion and second and discussion again
So moved.
to approve
To approve.
as presented.
Correct.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
All right, open for discussion.
Is this plan amendable?
That's up to this board.
Okay, then I would propose the elimination of two items on the comprehensive plan. Number 14, the bike path to the James Monroe birthplace. I think it's a fine idea if we could do it with Virginia, with state or federal funds. I don't want to see local funds going to it. And I would also suggest that we eliminate item 17, which is Eleanor Park improvements. We are about ready to create an open space easement or an open space, we're about ready to put Eleanor Park under the Open Space Act. If it's going to be open space, it should stay open space, and I see no reason to put money into Eleanor Park. I've also reminded that some of the people at the public hearing made the, I don't know, it's almost laughable, but the suggestion that this 2 acres is the most environmentally sensitive place on the entire northern neck. But if it's going to be open space, let's leave it open space, and I think it needs to come off this improvement plan. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
I believe on the CIP, there is funding for the improvements that need to be done at Eleanor Park to make it usable space. It's supposed to be an open park space, a multi-use park space, not a preservation. It's not big enough to be a land preservation. It's to be for the use of the citizens. And I believe that the grant that we got has money in it to make those improvements. So it's not like it's coming in somewhere else. As for the path to the James Monroe birthplace, if it's not in our CIP, then we can't go after those funds that are out there. We don't have to put any money into it ourselves if we can't get the funds, but we can't go after those great big grants unless it's in our plan to do so. So I would argue against pulling those out of the.
Did Mr. Moncur make a motion? Is this something
It's a point of
to do this?
Let me so move.
So now we will discuss further the motion. I think Dr. Self-Salvador spoke. Anybody else?
Has been approved by our planning commission, and we've had this discussion multiple times about all of these items, either in the strategic head in the past. And I believe that with the information that's been provided from our town people, pulling this out, as Ms. Dr. Self-Sullivan said, funds if we pull these items out. That's all.
It's a CIP for FY 2022 to 2027. I don't see any need to pull it out now. I mean, we should keep it in so we can continue to discuss and work on grants for these items.
My argument for keeping it in would be that while I support that project, it is an identified request in our comprehensive plan, which was something that was. I think we should continue to try to strive for the needs of, especially in IP where you're not actually committing local dollars to those items at this point. There is no local commitment. Even on the sheet, it has 0 next to bike path for the James Road birthplace. It doesn't have a dollar figure at all. So there's no commitment at this point, dollar figure wise. And ultimately, I hope that the government's goal in a general aspect is to achieve the mission statement, the vision statement, and the wants and needs of the community, which are identified as the general goal of I think, government. So in that sense, I think it meets that goal in the pursuit, knowing that I also am with Mr. Moncur that I would not be prepared to commit local tax dollars towards that project. As far as the Eleanor Park improvements, I'm sorry, I'm going to make this extremely and abundantly clear. It is not somebody's front yard, And it will and should be used as public space for all citizens of this town. In that respect, I think you need of amenities there that make it worthwhile. And I don't see it, I just don't need to see it there just growing grass, and the trees are beautiful. I don't want to cut down the trees, for the woman who sent that public comment in. I appreciate that. But, placemaking needs to exist. We need to be using our public spaces to activate the quality of life that we deserve in this town, that we need in this town, in a town of an aging population and a young population, of a multi-generational community. And get outside. Get off your phone, get off your computer, get outside. And I want places that you can do that at. And so I would like to activate it. So I think $50,000 of grant money that was coming with this and already planned to receive seems like a very minimal amount to do that. I also think there's like some private funds. Is that correct?
There's been so far over $7,000 raised by Colonial Beach Green Space to put memorial benches in, so people will have a place to sit, watch their kids play, watch the birds, the osprey over the river, just meditation, reading, whatever, so that it begins to be a place that's more usable without you having to take your lawn chair with you.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Anyway, that's my opinion. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Can do a roll call vote on the motion, which is to remove the 2 items from the CIP. I'll go down the line. Dr. Sullivan?
So the motion is to remove the items.
Correct, that's the motion number.
I vote nay.
Okay, Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Allison?
Nay.
Okay, Ms. Clement?
Nay.
Mr. Boncar? Okay. Ms. Robertson? Okay, I vote nay. So now the motion is to approve the CIP as presented. Is that correct? Right, because the previous motion failed. I'll go this way this time. We'll mix it back up. Ms.
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Montier.
Nay.
Okay.
Aye.
Ms. Robertson.
Aye.
Mr. Robertson, Mr. Williams.
Nay.
And Scott.
Aye.
Thank you.
Mayor will vote.
I did vote aye. Sorry, I didn't say it loud enough.
I heard you.
Okay. All right, next up. Resolution 23-22. Mr. J.C. LaRiviere. Is that right? Is that the first?
It's close, yeah.
Okay.
It's the American pronunciation that we go with, so that's good. But, so yes, this is the last time that this item should be in front of council. So we are nearing the end of the due diligence process. The only remaining items are this declaration, the title commitment binder, and then the closing itself. And right now that's tentatively scheduled for June. The question of the exact date will be if the state actually has enough money to make the wire transfer on the day that we tell them. So hopefully soon. We talked about this a lot. I'm not going to go into it too much. This is a contractual obligation based on the grant agreement we signed. I know there were some citizen concerns that were brought up, but I'll just take questions from you guys if you have any.
Were the typos that Dr. Gasterling identified corrected?
Yes, ma'am. We will do that for the final version. And the missing percentage is 32.3%.
Yes, Ms. Williams.
Are those the only updates from what the citizens got in the public agenda?
The only change that isn't there is the percentage, really,
Okay.
and then the grammatical changes.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Nope, I'm gonna do a roll call vote. We're gonna fly through. Guys, I'm so proud of us tonight. 7:30.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to acknowledge Dr. Gasterlin's input. I think her vision for the park is very much aligned with council's vision for the park. And the idea that we would just cut down trees to be cutting down trees is not aligned with the whole idea of the park. But to have to get approval from VLCF to take down a tree that's been damaged by a storm, I think would be a little problematic. So taking down those trees, taking down any tree in the Chesapeake Bay area it has to be approved by the town, and it has to have a arborist say that it needs to come down. Also, as far as the improvements, the site plan has not been finalized. That's something that, I think it's appropriate when we have a site plan that we want to discuss, that neighbors would be able to have input to that. But also, if it's going to be a functional park, it needs to have a minimal restroom there and handicap parking at the very minimum.
Is there any other discussion? Yes, Mr. Wood.
Is there an expiration on this open space designation, which basically turns Owner Park into a permanent open space?
I don't remember. Was there an expiration?
No, there's no expiration, but there is language there. The agreement and then the declaration also provide for that the town could sell it if they ever decided to do so, and that was the provision or the percentage that JC referenced. So basically, there's a clawback on some of the money if the town ever decided to do that. So, just to use an extreme example, if there were development, for example, and town council at some later date, many years in the future, decided or determined that the highest and best use of that land was something different, you could then sell it and that sort of thing. But unless that happens, the easement itself is permanent.
So with the money the unit was given to the town for the grant, you have to go back? Is that how that would work?
A portion. And they use a formula, and JC is much better versed in that formula and how that works than I am, but it's just a portion only.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Yeah, it's, if we sold it, we'd have to pay back 32.3% proceeds of the sale, and that's it. So if we sold it for, I don't know, $1 million, then we'd have to pay back 32.3% of that. So that'd be about the grant amount or more.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, I'm gonna go with the roll call vote then. Dr. Sullivan? Mr.
Aye.
Williams? Sorry.
Nay.
Mr. Allison?
Aye.
Ms. Clement?
Aye.
Mr. Moncur?
Nay.
Ms. Robertson?
Aye.
Mayor votes aye. Why did I hesitate? I'm trying to be a consensus builder about things, I'm just trying to bring people together up here. That's all. That's all. It's 7:35. I don't know what else to do with my night, Tom. All right. So I have a motion. Oh, we don't have anything for closed meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I've got a question.
Oh.
I know, India, we were potentially going to discuss a land easement issue. Is that not something we're still going to do, or we have to delay that?
Given that we are onboarding some new employees, I'd like to get our staff up to speed on that and bring that back at the next meeting. And there are a couple of easement issues / acquisition of property that I think we'll need to bring back in closed session. So I'd like to do that all at one time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do I have a motion for adjourn?
Moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 7:36.